Welcome, everybody, to a new Son of Sam Chronicles. I'm RockerMike. Below me, we have Carl Denaro, our usual guest. Rob Rossi is top left, and special guest is a premier Son of Sam investigator. You people might know him. His name is Neo. Hello, Neo. Welcome to the show. It's been a long time coming. How you doing?
Yeah. What's going on, fellas?
All right, good.
I love you in the Matrix.
All right, a little comic relief right off the bat. All right, well, Neo, I'm glad you're here. Okay, for some that don't know him, his research has been seen in other podcasts and things like that. All that's good. I'm glad he's over here right now, giving us his opinions on things. Neo has been researching this for quite some time, this case. And I'd like to just jump in. We're going to have a nice long show today, talk about different topics, including the large information dump that happened last month, okay, with the tapes, the DA tapes from 79 and the other information that's out there. And Neo has some newer information to talk about as well. Let's just talk about these DA tapes from 79. It's really caused such an uproar, okay, in the Son of Sam community since they've been released. I think some people are looking for a magic bullet that, will solve the case and prove everything, whichever way they want to go with it. Carl, what's your opinion on these new tapes?
Boy, my opinion. The tapes are explosive, to say the least. And it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on. Pro-Maury, anti-Maury. We're all supposedly searching for the truth. So any new information is good information. But I think that my biggest takeaway, especially when I first started listening to the audio tapes, was everyone's got to remember that this data dump is just one piece of information. Do not discard 45 years of research. Some of it done by Maury Terry, some of it done by NYPD, a lot of it done by Son of Sam researchers in the last couple of years. You can't just take these interviews and say, bingo, that's the truth. And I know you want to get into this, but just to illustrate my point, I'll just talk about Tommy Zano for 1 second.
Sure.
We all thought we knew what Tommy Zano said, and bottom line is, he said it wasn't Berkowitz then, it's not Berkowitz now. He said that on TV in, I believe it was 89, but he also said that to the police in 77. The days right after the Moskowitz shooting, and even more interesting, in the DA tape interview, he clearly says it wasn't David Berkowitz, but yet when he's going over the description of the shooter, he's not describing David Berkowitz.
No.
So just with Tommy Zano, you have three different scenarios. They all can't be true. I don't know what happened. I don't know why he changed his story. I don't know if he was coerced, if he lied the first time, if he lied the second time, if he lied on TV. I don't know the answer to that, but I think it's a microcosm of what we're looking at right now with this new information.
Right.
You can't just look at one piece of information. You got to combine them all. And I'm not saying it's easy. It's our biggest job right now is what's the truth and what's a lie, and God bless us all to try to figure the answer out.
Let me just give a couple examples of what you're talking about, and Neo, I'd like you to jump in when I'm done here. Is if you read the arrest records of Berkowitz, which was immediately after his arrest, he was interrogated for hours that night. He talks about each shooting. When it gets to the Moskowitz one, he mentions that he was wearing a denim jacket. Okay, but when you listen to the Zano tape from 79, okay, 2 years later. He says that the guy had rolled up sleeves, a stocky guy, about 5'9". Now, that could be Berkowitz, okay? But he said that it was brown, wild, long, straight hair. Now, Neo, does that describe Berkowitz? Wild, long, straight hair?
No, but we do have Berkowitz wearing a wig a couple days after the Moskowitz shooting.
Yes, that's another thing with that happened in Yonkers, right?
But there was no wig found when he got arrested. I can tell you
right.
that.
No wig in the car, no wig in the apartment, nothing. Okay, so that's a big question mark right there. Now, Zano, to me, in that interview, he sounds very evasive. Okay, he sounds like he's trying to get around the questions in some way. Okay, he says that he saw a guy at the entrance of the park. He says that person walked across the street to the car behind him. He also said that he saw someone crouch to shoot into that car. Okay, but again, the description, brown hair, wild, long, and straight, is not Berkowitz unless he's wearing a wig. All right, but then again, you got the person that was absent from all these DA interviews is Cecilia Davis, right, Neil? Well, her interview, if she was interviewed, it was left out of this data dump. Okay, so it looks like
she really wanted to be interviewed.
Maybe not. Maybe not in 79.
Her neighbors had to. I'm pretty sure the neighbors called the cops for her. You know, because she just, she really didn't want to. She was a little frightened. So I don't think they got to her, and she did give a witness. I just think her neighbors called up. She talked to someone came the next day after that and talked to her. But that was it. I don't think they got her as far as the DA or anybody.
Not in 79.
Yeah, no.
Right. Well,
but
I mean,
Cecilia Davis did do extensive interviews in the days after the Moskowitz shooting.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I don't know what to make of it, but to me, I find it troublesome that we have all these interviews in 79 and Celia Davis isn't there. I wasn't interviewed either, and believe me, I'm hiding in plain sight. Lawrence Klausner got in touch with me in 79 for his book. I don't know why the Queens DA couldn't find me, and in the Rosemary Keenan interview, she actually says, "Well, he's in California. Give me a couple of days. I'll get his number." And it was quite obvious the guy wasn't interested, and that's cool. I'm just pointing this out that even this huge data dump, even these are not complete. Just like everything else we've been dealing with, police reports aren't complete, and so on.
Well, could it be just that they just felt that since you didn't see anything, it was obvious you didn't see anything, that you wouldn't be helpful?
Sure. Without a doubt. It's just, I mean, that's what I'm saying. It might not be anything, not interviewing me. Believe me, it's not an ego thing for me. I've been interviewed more times than I care. But I'm just trying to point out that even this unbelievable data dump that everyone's going crazy over is not as complete as you might think it is. I mean, again, you can make excuses, and Neil, you might be right. Maybe at this point, Cecilia Davis said, "I want no part of this. I'm getting out of it," and she refused to be interviewed. That's very possible. I'm not saying it. If you notice, Tommy Zano, if you looked at his interviews over the years, including TV footage back in 77, he was really into it. And I don't know about you guys, but what I got out of the 79 Zano interview, he looked totally disinterested, or sounded totally disinterested. Like he'd rather be someplace else than talking to the DA.
When did Zano run into Maury?
Good question.
We don't know. And, that's the rhetorical question I'm saying. What happened between 77 concerning Tommy Zano? What happened between 77 and 89? Why the change in story? He clearly, it's on, it's on, I think it's Now It Can Be Told, one of those tabloid TV shows. He clearly says, it wasn't Berkowitz then, it's not Berkowitz now. Why did he change his story? Only Tommy Zano can answer that. I've reached out to, I think you've tried to reach out to him. I've reached out to him.
No, I've talked to him, yeah.
I was in communication with him a couple of years ago, but yesterday, I actually sent him a message, asked him to give me a call.
I like the guy. The guy's a good guy. I feel bad for this. He doesn't, he's not able to, I guess he doesn't want to stick up for himself or whatever, but the guy's a good guy. I like the guy, and I feel bad that he's dealing with this, because I don't know what happened. I don't think he intentionally meant to bother anybody either.
Well, if he's listening, I'd like to just invite him on. Contact us, okay? Contact Carl. Contact Neo, okay? We'll be happy to have him on and discuss it in a proper, polite way and get to the bottom of it. I mean, it could be very simple answers that everybody can just go along with, I would hope, okay? Another particular part of this information dump that I want to get into is the tape with Mr. Barlow, okay? I find this one very fascinating because it's really the two stories between 77 and 79 are starkly different. Would you agree, Carl?
Oh, without a
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah. This is related to the Voskerichian shooting in Forest Hills that happened on March 8th, 77. Mr. Barlow was supposedly an eyewitness to this, but his testimony between 77 and 79 is very different. 77, he basically has a person in a sweater, wearing a sweater, and running past him in a cap, a watch cap, ski cap type thing, with hands on the head, bumps into him and says, "Oh, Jesus," or something like that. But then, the second story in 79, he says that he sees someone who's definitely Berkowitz, okay? And the original sketch from 77 did not look like Berkowitz at all. You agree, Neil? Did not look like Berkowitz.
Well, I in this instance, okay, you have Berkowitz telling his story of running into the man, okay? The man.
I don't want to compare. I got you. You're totally right. I don't want to compare the arrest record of Berkowitz to this just yet. All right.
But they both have the same story, is what I'm saying. You got the old man getting interrogated, and you got Berkowitz getting interrogated, and they both have the same story without talking to each other.
What? No.
No, I don't think that's accurate.
Yes. Yeah. It is. They both have the same story of Berkowitz running past the man and saying something.
Okay. Carl, what is the difference?
Let's
finish, Neil.
Let's say.
Well, I don't think I want to focus too much on what he's seen as far as someone shooting the person. The fact that he saw a single male running from where a person got shot and ran past him and did say something, okay? And then you have, after Berkowitz gets arrested, he gets interrogated. Now, Berkowitz didn't talk to this old man, so they didn't trade stories, okay? Berkowitz tells the police about this old man, that he ran past him and said something to him. The old man got interrogated after the Voskerichian shooting. He gave the same story as Berkowitz did when Berkowitz got interrogated. They couldn't have possibly known the same thing, that Berkowitz ran past the guy and said something.
All right, Neil, let's unpack this nice and slow.
Yeah.
He tells the story. Barlow tells the story in 77. It's in the newspaper. Berkowitz gets caught in August. Berkowitz had and again, I'm not saying I'm right, but I'm giving you a scenario.
Was the interrogation in the newspaper?
It's not as clear as you think it is. Berkowitz gets interrogated on August 11th, and he had the privilege or the advantage, whatever word you want to use, to read the newspaper articles that came out 6 months earlier. Okay?
So, what was the guy's interrogation?
Because the stories match, Berkowitz, in my opinion, is just repeating what he heard, what he read the newspapers that Barlow said. On top of that, Berkowitz had the wrong color hat. Okay, and I might be wrong.
But
I
was the
believe
guy's
Berkowitz
interrogation?
said it was a red hat in his interview on August 11th. Barlow said it was a green hat. Okay,
I agree with you. If Berkowitz was able to see this guy's interrogation, did the cops put this guy's interrogation?
Why would he see his interrogation?
So how would Berkowitz say the same exact story as the guy?
Newspaper.
You sure that the guy's?
I'm positive it was in the newspaper.
Okay, I know. I'm asking you. Don't kill me. I'm saying, if you're saying that, then yeah, you're countering me. I agree. I agree. He could have seen it then, yeah.
I think what you're trying to say, Neo, was word for word was the interrogation in the paper, and I would say probably not. Okay, but enough of an outline of it that you could figure out what Mr. Barlow was saying. Okay,
if Berkowitz was to read what this guy said beforehand, okay, then. But I don't think that. I'd like to see the article, but you could be right. If that's the case, yes, it's very possible he's seen what the guy said and was to duplicate.
He was around.
Next time we hook up,
okay,
you remind me. I have a box of newspaper clippings. I don't even have to go on the internet. I have the actual newspaper clippings, and we'll go through them.
Listen. He loved reading the paper on himself.
He did.
I can easily take that counter from you and take it.
And also, and again, I mentioned this earlier. He had the wrong color. He had the wrong color hat, and I know it's a small thing, but again, when you're being interrogated, when he's being interrogated on August 11th, he was able to read all the newspaper clippings. Now, I'll tell you another one, just to prove my point. He also said I was in a red Volkswagen. I was in a navy blue Volkswagen. He got the car right, but but he got the color wrong. Now, if you're there, I don't know, blue, red, unless you're colorblind.
Yeah,
I don't see how you make a mistake. But these are the little things that lead me to believe. And on top of all this, Mike, you said earlier that he was interrogated for hours. I've been told by NYPD that the interrogation took no more than 45 minutes. And one cop told me, he goes, I interview burglary suspects for more than 45 minutes.
Okay.
They went through teams of detectives on each case, asked them 3 or 4 questions, the secret questions the police keep from the public eye. So when they catch the guy, if he knows the answers, they know they got the guy. And it was like a series of 3 or 4 questions from each detective team. It took about 45 minutes.
They were from each borough. Each borough was getting to speak to him. But the reason I said a couple hours, I think I've heard that over the years, but maybe what I was looking at the tapes was the timestamps. Mm-hmm. Okay, it was like, 1 something in the morning, 3 something in the morning. I think. Now I'm trying to remember now. I'm not positive.
I ran through. That's what I got. I mean, I've talked to people that
it was very quick. Okay, then I stand.
He got ran through. A couple cops, couple hours of interrogation. But if you heard something different, okay, I heard that he got.
It's not that important anyway.
Well, you know what? 45 minutes, 2 hours. I could, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I can see, and then talking to cops 25 years later, it was quick. Well, 2 hours is actually quick for the biggest manhunt in New York City history. But even 3 hours is pretty quick, in my opinion, for the biggest manhunt in New York City history. But other cops might look at it and say, I spent 3 hours with a burglary suspect. So, I think it's important, but 45 minutes, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, it in a way, does it really matter? He certainly wasn't grilled like you would expect the police to grill somebody that is accused of killing 6 people.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think differently, Carl, because they had almost every detective that had something to do with the shooting grill him. So, I mean, they must have ran through about 6, 7 detectives, and they also, I forget the psychiatrist they threw at him. and they started throwing psychiatrists more. So,
this is much later. No, I'm talking about the night of his arrest.
Yeah, the night of his arrest, they grilled him. They took him in at 10.
I don't think there was psychiatrists at Police Plaza the night of his arrest.
I can't remember the doctor's name. I think
Abramson.
No, there was another. It may have been Schwartz. There was someone else that got to him first. That you know,
he was already in the psych. He was already in the psych ward in Brooklyn Hospital when he was interviewed by his psychiatrist.
Okay, so maybe the psychiatrist that night didn't get in there, but I know a few cops ran through him. You know.
Oh yeah, I'm openly admitting that. A few actually. All the detective teams, the 2 detectives on each assigned to each case, had their 3 or 4 questions, and they ran through it. And again, I'm not making this up. This is what NYPD told me over the years. So it is what it is.
When you talk about David Berkowitz, the guy definitely had a weird kind of ego, and he definitely seemed like he wanted to get caught, especially when he started leaving letters and weird stuff like that. So something was going on in his head. And the thing with description, I can tell you, I was in a bar years ago with my uncle, and I remember there was a guy playing pool, and 2 black guys walked in, and the guy said, "Hey, what's the score of the Knick game?" We gave him the score. The guy bought a drink for everybody, and the next thing they turned around, they fucking killed the guy at the pool table, shot him twice, and when the cops came in, they asked me, "Can you describe the man?" They were well dressed. That's the only thing I remember. They were well dressed, they were black, and that was the only I could how the guy looked, how he sounded. But I was so like, shit, if somebody just got killed in front of me, that was the most shocking thing.
Yeah,
it was insane.
Yeah,
but with Berkowitz, he teased the cops. He was leaving letters, he left for it was kind of psychotic what he was doing.
Oh, big time.
Well, yeah, that's what there's no argument there. One thing too with the Mr. Barlow's testimony in '79 that sticks out to me is his description. Okay, he describes a shooter as wearing no jacket and in shirt sleeves. I think he said white shirt sleeves, which is something that Berkowitz was known to wear that white shirt. Okay, and in his '77 statement, he didn't say that. He didn't even say the description in that way. So what I'm getting at is, I just think that you have 2 years of hearing about the case in the news all the time, reading about it in the paper, and I think that people can just kind of change their story, not in a way to lie intentionally or to mislead in any way at all, but just almost convince themselves. And I think it's a human nature thing. It's not a bad thing. It just happens to some people where you change your story to fit what you believe is the whole story. So your thing fits into it. I think it's a human nature thing. So I don't think Mr. Barlow is a bad guy or was intentionally misleading people. I think just that his '79 statements are not totally reliable. Also because of the way he described the shooting, putting Vuskevsky in a headlock, putting a gun in her mouth and firing. I don't think you could do that. First of all, she was carrying a bag and she had the book in front of her. They know that the bullet went through the book. If you're in a headlock, you're not going to be pulling a book up. I don't see how that's going to happen. Okay. And I think also ballistics could show something, because if you did that, if you put a gun in someone's mouth like this, large caliber, you might shoot yourself in a headlock. Am I wrong? I'm not.
Yeah.
You might end up, that bullet might come out the side of her head and go right into your chest.
So this guy didn't see this?
No.
He saw something, but not what he's.
Why would this guy make this stuff up?
Okay,
not saying he made it up. I'm just get back to what I said a minute ago, where it's just he's trying to fit it into what he believes and he's convinced is the whole story, and he's had 2 years to cultivate this.
Right, two years of reading articles in the newspaper.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes along with Zano did too.
I think it's possible with him too.
Is it possible? Is it possible that if you, I don't know if you remember, but back then, even after Berkowitz was caught, the Post and the News were running 7, 8, 10 pages every day. And when they ran out of material, they just regurgitated old material. But every day there was 7 or 8 articles about Son of Sam. And after 2 years, is it possible that your mind, after reading the same story for 2 years, now the DA comes to talk to you again, and not so much you change your story, you're actually parroting what you've been reading for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's possible. And again, I agree with Mike. I don't think Mr. Barlow has a mean bone in his body. I don't think he was trying to hide anything. But in his original interview, he said he heard something that he thought was firecrackers, and then he saw a person running towards him, described as a 18-year-old baby-faced person with the watch cap holding the hat. Now, that's what he reported. 2 years later, he actually sees the shooting. And as Mike pointed out, and again, I'm not a ballistics guy, but his second version of watching the gun shoved in her mouth and pulled the trigger doesn't even make sense to the NYPD story, because Detective Joe Coffey, he was on for 10 years talking about the Voscarician case, and how the book, the book had a hole in it, and it went through the book and into her face and killed her instantly. Again, shoving the gun in her mouth. I don't see how Barlow. I don't see how that's even possible to do. But Barlow certainly changed his story, because his first story was he heard something that he thought was firecrackers. Well, if you're watching a guy put a gun in a girl's mouth and then you hear a bang, it's not firecrackers. So,
and one thing, Carl, just to interrupt you for a second. Carl, just for 1 second, let me tell you. Not only did he say that he put the gun in her mouth, he said he was shooting through a paper bag while he did it. Kind of awkward, right? Having a bag over the gun and then sticking it in her mouth with the bag too.
Yeah, I mean,
he used to shoot through a bag. We know that. Right. We know that. But me,
in two instances, whoever the shooter was used a plastic bag also.
Okay. Yeah.
Up the arm, and Marlon Hopkins, the NYPD detective that was assigned to the Christine Freund shooting, he told me a couple of years ago that about the plastic bags. And I know there is one crime scene photo at the Moskowitz shooting where you see a couple of cops standing on the driver's side of Violante's car with the fence, the chain link fence behind them, and the guy's holding up a clear plastic bag.
Would that just be for transport, carrying the gun, or why would they do that?
Marlon said his expert opinion, for what it's worth. This isn't my opinion. I know nothing about guns, but what he said was to keep gunpowder residue off your hands.
Also, wrap the gun up and then you fire it from the outside of the paper.
The bag that the cop was holding up at the Violante shooting, it looked like an oversized, newspaper plastic bag. Well, because they're about that long. This was double that size, because he's holding it up over his head like this. And again, I don't know. Maury Terry didn't even talk about that. It didn't even dawn on me until Marlon Hopkins told me. I think it was 2018, 2019. And sure enough, I went back and looked at crime pictures, and sure enough, there was, like I said, I specifically remember the Violante shooting where the cops holding this bag up. I'm not sure if they found the bag at the Voscarician shooting.
Well, they found a big Louis Vuitton bag.
Well,
That-
that just adds another thing. Of course, this is just us playing amateur sleuth. But I've mentioned this before, long before these tapes came out. There's one crime scene photo where you see that big Louis Vuitton bag. And my first question was, if she's got a bag that big, what was she doing holding a book? You would think all her books would be in the Louis Vuitton bag. Just saying.
How you do it. Yeah, and I mean, Neil, what do you think? I mean, she was walking from Queens Boulevard under the trestle on Continental. She makes that little right on Dartmouth. She could have been reading on the train, right? It's possible.
I didn't even consider that.
Right, Neil? I mean, she could have been reading and just didn't put it back in the bag. You know, she was only a few blocks from her house. I don't know.
I just think that the main thing to take away from this is that the guy seen a single male shooter.
But only in the 79 statements did he say he saw the shooting. Okay.
Yeah.
In the first one, he doesn't say that, but he describes someone running at him that has soft features, young, 19 years old, about maybe 18, 19. That's not Berkowitz. And the sketch at that time did not look like Berkowitz. It could have been, looked almost androgynous. Could have been a man, could have been a woman with straight hair. And I watched it.
None of those sketches were good. None of those sketches. Whatever happened to the joggers? Were there like two joggers that kind of saw them also?
Now, the joggers saw somebody, I believe, that they made the statements in 77. They were never interviewed in 79, the joggers, right? I didn't see any of those tapes. So in 77, they made comments that they saw someone lurking around that followed them kind of around the block, and where they were jogging, they saw him again, and they were like, how'd he get there so fast? That person was described somewhat like Berkowitz, I believe.
Well, they had him in the, if I'm not mistaken, they had him in that tan trench coat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Two different locations. One in the square where it just so happens that Christine Freund shooting happened.
Yes.
And then they keep running. Now they're jogging, so they're not running fast. And somehow the same person, be it Berkowitz or not, but the same person in the trench coat is on the corner, 3 blocks, I guess would be 3 blocks west of the Foscarichian shooting. And when they make the left, the guy in the trench coat standing on the corner already. So somehow he got ahead of him.
I don't know how.
They're not Berkowitz. The
But we're talking about, it has to be 2 different people. It has to be, because you have in 77, you have a person running at Barlow with the watch cap and young features. Okay. And then you also have in 77, this other person. So there had to be 2 people there. Okay. We don't even know. Maybe, I mean, it's possible that the joggers saw somebody else that just was there that had nothing to do with it, but it really kind of, it plays into it. You know, I don't understand how Neo, I know you lean more towards Berkowitz being the only shooter. Okay. And give me a second. And I can go with that if you prove it to me, because I think there's too many things that point the other way. Now I know we don't agree, and that's fine, and we could talk about it. Well, what's your opinion? What I'm saying?
I think he was alone. I just ran around for a year vindicating a ton of people in Yonkers. I kept getting the same answers, not the answers that Maury got. And then you get the DA drop, and it's kind of clarifying everything I did, going around and questioning. And, I don't see any Untermeyer Park in any of these notes. I don't see any accomplices in any of these notes. I don't see him involving anybody in any of these notes. I do not see a woman involved in this or a cop, like he said. I just see everything pointing to him. And it's hard for me to get John Carr out of this. I don't think John Carr at this point was involved. I think Wheat was innocent and Sam Carr is innocent. They both did. They got reverse reaction. They helped catch Berkowitz, but it's hard for me to take John Carr out of this. There's just too much stuff there. I don't think he was involved, but I still would like to do some more research on
where you're at right now as far as John Carr. Okay. Are you leaning more towards him being involved in the shootings or being in a cult of some kind, or into the occult and doing things in the name of that occult?
Well, we have his notes in the occult from Maury. We haven't proved them wrong. I think he was in an occult. I do think he knew Berkowitz, but I don't think he had something to do with the crimes. There's just a feeling there. I talked to people there. There's a few people that said they seen them together. I can't take that out. So yeah, I'm left with a feeling where I think they knew each other, but I don't think John Carr had anything to do with the shootings.
Okay, so this goes to something that I've said to you off camera a few times, Neo. Is I think there's two parallel things going on here. Okay, where you have, and at some points they intersect. Okay, you have Berkowitz. Let's just say for the conversation that he is the only shooter. Okay, so you have Berkowitz doing these crimes, and he is friends with John Carr. Okay, John Carr maybe at some point becomes aware of what Berkowitz is doing. Okay, whether by accident or by Berkowitz telling him and saying, "Hey, come in with me. Come. If you don't want to do anything, come with me on one. I'm going around, driving around the city." Okay? Because some of the descriptions, the sketches, do look like Carr. Okay? Now, could it,
I hold no weight to the sketches. I'm just saying.
What's that?
I hold no weight to those sketches. I don't even.
You can in some ways.
I can hold weight because it is what it is. An artist using his talent to recreate what this person's telling. You get a different artist, you get different people. You're going to come up with a different picture all the time.
That's a valid point.
It's fair.
It sounds like you've been talking to some police officers, and that's cool.
No, I just know that even the police officers, what we have now, don't go back to sketches. They don't use them at all.
But don't you think if these sketches are, and I know where you're going, because that's what the police say when they don't want to use a sketch. They say, well, someone that's got a gun pointed at their face, they don't see, and as Rob
absolutely,
mentioned earlier,
like Rob said,
that's
when
all
things
true.
go down.
Okay, so hold it. So in 1977, 9 sketches were made, and one of them looks like Berkowitz. The other 8 don't look anything like Berkowitz. And now, all of a sudden, people that knew Berkowitz and people in the Yonkers realm look like these people. You can't blame Maury Terry. Maury Terry didn't know, he didn't know anything. He had nothing to do with the sketches, right? So don't you find that at least a little bit interesting that somebody that looks like John Carr was sketched in Queens? Someone that looks like Michael Carr was sketched at Eliphas. Someone that looks like O'Shaughnessy was at was sketched at the Lamina by eyewitnesses. And in this case, there was the guy across the street who looked out the window, and those 2 sketches were not just from Lamino and Damasi. They were from the neighbor across the street who saw the guy running down the street, holding a gun in his left hand and Berkowitz's right hand. So just those few facts that I just threw out, doesn't that at least give you some kind of pause to say there's a possibility?
Not from the sketches, from me, because like you just said, you can take O'Shaughnessy. I mean, you want to take those composites, I'll line up 50 people from Yonkers for you that look like the guy. I'm just saying, I just don't hold much weight in a sketch. That's me. That's me.
I hear you. And, I've heard this for 45 years. I heard it from cops. And my retort to them always is, Well, if they're really not that reliable, why in God's name would you plaster a week before you catch Berkowitz? Why would you plaster a picture on the Daily News, a full page headline sketch of your suspect that looks nothing like Berkowitz a week before they catch Berkowitz? Why would you do that if these sketches are so inaccurate? Why would
they didn't know then. You know, you get sketches, you want to put it out. They didn't.
Guys, you know what?
I'm saying they didn't know that it doesn't look like Berkowitz. I mean, they're getting sketches. You got to put it out.
Why?
Know.
Because they're
well, you don't
useless.
have it. You don't have anything else.
I'll show
you
you 50 people that look like that sketch that they put in the Daily News. I'm using your words, Neo.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I'm just saying you got to use what you got at the time. I'm not knocking using the sketches. I'm just saying I myself don't hold much weight to it. That's
fair enough.
Obviously.
Let's make a devil's advocate here for a second.
Go ahead, Rob.
Devil's advocate. Let's say they put out that sketch just to throw the guy off, saying this is the guy we're looking for, or they got the sketch of the real people that they never put out just to throw them off. So the guy say, "Oh,
that's diabolical."
That's diabolical.
No way
that's diabolical.
They got this sketch. You just never know.
No,
you know what?
Rob,
John Carl and David Berkowitz.
The cops were a little tricky with their the way they handle things. Like they held the first letter back that was dropped. They didn't let anybody see it.
That's all good police work. That's good police work. You don't put it all out there because you want to have things that only you know. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you come across something, all right, how do you know that? Okay. So
that's why I want to see, Carl, the article where the guy I just want to see it. Because I can't see them putting his interrogation out in a sense, too.
Yep.
But I don't distrust you. I just want to see it. You know?
But Neil, you do know John Carl, John Carl and Dave, they definitely knew each other. They would definitely, even Dave admitted to being in a court with him, in a real court.
But where can you connect John Carl to any of the shootings? You don't, you know, 5 out of the 8 shootings,
He looks like one of the sketches.
But you know what's funny? What's another connection they got? Wasn't Dave in the military? So was John.
Yeah.
Well, different branches of the military, different places. Yeah, that's not anything.
Yeah, you know, I was already enlisted in the Air Force, and I'm really surprised no one has tried to make it.
Yeah,
not you guys, but some of the other conspirators out there. I'm surprised someone hasn't connected me to being involved with John Carr, because he was in the Air Force and I was enlisted.
Well, weren't you supposed to go to Minot?
You know what's so funny about the day?
You guys shot in the head ahead of time, so that you know.
I figured let it happen on the streets. No point going into the service.
Yeah, I'll get shot before.
Dave, Mike, you want to hear something funny about David Berkowitz? You know what? He went to that Fort Knox, and you see how crazy that place is now. People are getting shot, all kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah.
What if it's just the people that are coming from there are just fucked up? They're trained to just start killing people.
Maybe Berkey knows where all the gold is.
Well, it's not at Fort Knox. We know that.
Yeah.
He definitely won't tell us the truth where it is either.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what?
Or there's not a big hunt or somewhere else, trust me.
I put a challenge onto him. If you're going to tell me one thing that's true, tell me what a gold is.
All right, guys, there's a information that Neo is going to get into a little bit here about Detective Borelli. Okay. You spoke to some people that spoke to him, I believe. Can you tell us how it went down?
Yeah, I've been hanging out with some YPD guys. I've been trying to get down there a few months ago until this guy came up and did the drop, and he saved me a lot of time. I didn't have to go and do all that stuff, but I did run into a few guys that knew Borelli, and you know they had tossed a few points out to me that that had passed by him. How 5 of the 5 of the 8 shootings, there was a witness to seeing one single male there. That was one point he put it out. He also stated that, the fingerprints that were on his letter and the weapons that were confiscated, it was only Berkowitz's prints on there. What else did he mention to me? He also mentioned, I don't know if you guys realize that the shootings had stopped after his arrest.
Oh, we know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just points of being him alone.
Okay. We can unpack that.
Also, he brought up another point to me that, as we were talking about before about him getting interrogated. He had brought a point up that the guy was interrogated for hours. And all of them came away with the same thing, that he was alone. I just don't know how you can trick so many professional people and they all come away with that he was alone.
But by 79, Leifer, DA Leifer, said that his office was convinced there were other people involved. Okay, he told that to Maury Terry in the tape, the interview with Maury Terry in 79. He says he believes there's other people involved, other shooters. I think he said the word other shooters, if I remember right. So something happened in that 2-year period. Maybe the DA's office had one line of thinking in 79, and the NYPD had stayed with their own line. It's just one guy.
Yeah, I think they really went through a lot, shut it, closed it, didn't want to talk about it.
Well, and we've mentioned this many times. There was a lot of political pressure to close the case. There was a lot of. It was an election year. There was a blackout. There was social unrest. There was the economy was
really bad.
Yeah, things were bad in 77 in New York City, and
the Bronx was burning.
Yeah, the only thing that was good was the Yankees were winning. That was
good old Reggie.
Yeah. But, let's look at some of that. First of all, you mentioned about the 5 out of 8 shootings having the words you used was a single
male
shooter.
Yeah, they had a witness to 5 out of 8 shootings of a single male shooter.
Okay, so let's break that down. Okay, there's 8 shootings. All right, so we have the first shooting in the Bronx. Okay, there was a witness to that because Jody, what was her name? The first shooting.
Valenti.
I always get mixed up with these two.
Jody
Valenti. Right. She survived. Okay, and her girlfriend died in the shooting. So and she saw the shooter. So that's one. Okay, Carl. That's. Nobody saw anything at your shooting. You're the second shooting. Then you have the Floral Park. They saw a shooter. Okay, so that's 2. Then you have Deal, right? Deal and Freund. Okay, Freund was the one that was killed. They didn't see the shooter, but they saw someone that looked like Berkowitz there, but I don't know if he's counting that.
Did they see a single male?
No. Well, not a shooter.
Not pulling the trigger.
Not pulling the trigger. They were coming out of a bar next to the movie theater, walking to the car, and they saw a guy coming at them that looked like Berkowitz. But that, I don't know if he counts that because it happened like it came to him after the arrest. Okay, so I'm not sure if he counts that or not. Then you have Voskerichian, okay, and
that's up in the air.
That's up in the air too. I mean, in 77, Apollo didn't see a shooter.
Let's go with Barlow for this.
I like playing tennis for Carl.
79 description.
Okay, and then you have the S.L. Soriani. There was no witnesses for that, right? Okay. Then you have Lupo, the disco, okay? And there's no witnesses for that either. So we're at like 4 already with no witnesses. And he's saying 5 and 3. It should be 3. It's already 4. So, and then you have Moskowitz where you have different accounts. But if you go by Zano, you see there was one shooter. Because Violante never saw him. Okay, he never said he saw him. Zano's the only one that said he saw a shooter. I don't recall Violante saying that, right? Or am I wrong?
That depends what interview you want to listen to.
Did he ever say that?
Violante's on record saying that it wasn't Berkowitz. He's on record saying it was Berkowitz. And he's on record much later in the 90s saying, I'll never forgive him for what he did to me. So...
Oh, that's understandable, but that would be just after the fact.
Right. But, so, you know, did he see the Did he see the shooter? Again, depends what interview you want to listen to. My guess is he didn't. But I don't want to.
But
like
we do.
Everyone else, you know, a lot of what we're saying, a lot of what we think is based on our assumptions. We read information, and I'm not pointing fingers because I do the same thing. I read certain information, and I pull out of it what I pull out of it. And that's my stance. It doesn't mean I'm right, and it doesn't mean I'm not ignoring some other pertinent information that I don't think is pertinent, but you might think is pertinent. And that's I mean, it's one of the dilemmas of this case. It's like, who do you believe? You know, who's telling the truth? Who's out and out lying? All right, and then I think the biggest problem we have is talking to people today. Are they remembering what they saw 45 years ago, or are they remembering what they read in Maury Terry's book?
It's very hard to discern that.
And I'll raise my hand. I'm guilty as hell because I have to take a step back and always say, it's like, all right, where did I get this information from? Is it ingrained in my head from talking to Maury? Is it ingrained in my head from reading The Altered Evil? Is it something that a cop told me? Is it something that I saw in the newspaper clipping? It all gets very confusing. And 45 years later, I throw my hands up and I do the best I can. But and I've told pretty much anyone involved in Son of Sam, I said, you know, if Maury Terry's wrong, if I'm wrong, I'm going to be disappointed. But if you prove to me with conclusive proof, not your assumptions, but with proof, you know, like everyone else, I'm looking for the truth like everyone else. If you prove to me that a certain part of the story is not true, I'm all ears. But, you know, I don't know. Without conclusive proof, how do I change my narrative? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's hard to, you know.
Some of the sketches.
Yeah.
There's the Voscarician ski cap.
Yeah, yep.
And Neo, you know, I mean, I'm definitely not going to argue with this because
very low tech, but it worked.
Yeah, but you know, the whole idea of how accurate are those sketches? I'm in a minority because I say if you can't use it, don't do it.
You had to use it,
but I guess so. But
yeah.
So I'm not going to argue with you. But man, to me, that's very compelling to look at 9 different sketches from different eyewitnesses, and only one of them looked like Berkowitz. I don't know. You give me.
But even you know, you got to take what Rob said before in a context. You know, and I've talked to a couple of people, a couple detectives on the Moskowitz shooting. Like, people hear guns fly. You hear that shot, you're all over the place.
Except
you don't know who shot it. You know, like you just got to get out of there. You don't know who's the shooter. You don't. It's not. You know, it's
Believe
really
me,
tough.
I was there. I wasn't looking around, Neo. I told Rosemary, you know, get out of here, start the car. You know,
hell out.
Right. I mean, what was your first reaction when the bullets crashed through?
As far as I remember, is I knew we were in trouble. I said, start the car and get out of here.
What did you think happened?
And I threw the pot out the window. So
good move. What do you think happened? Like,
I don't know. And I you know, I know I've been accused of covering up and lying. Believe me, I banged my head against the wall for 45 years trying to, and trying to remember exactly what happened, and I don't remember what happened. And between adrenaline, between being drunk, being 20 years old, what other 2:00 in the morning, the shock of being shot. Those four things, it's like I'm surprised I remember that we actually went down 159th Street and made a right. That I'm sure of. For some reason I remember that. I don't remember much else. The next thing I remember is giving Rosemary directions, make a right. And we're in front of Peck's, and I walked in, and the guy opened the door, sat me down, and next thing you know, I'm walking towards my friend's car. What happened to Rosemary? Well, apparently she ran in the bar and was hysterical. And this is from a friend of mine who I just spoke to a couple days ago, and I said, I got you on the line. Give me your rendition of what happened that night. And that's what he told me. So that explains why people didn't see me come in the bar, because I literally took one step in the bar, sat down, and two of my friends took me to the hospital. Meanwhile, everyone's clamoring around Rosemary, and I was long gone before anyone even bothered to look for me, because my friends had already taken me out. But
yeah, and we spent two episodes defending you, Carl. You don't have to.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's going off the rails there.
No problem at all. It's just anybody that has a problem with your story at this point, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah,
so
I agree. All right.
Hey, so you guys see this sketch?
Yeah.
So this is the sketch that people say that looks a lot like John Carl.
Because of the way the hair is parted,
the way it's parted, the way that if you see a picture of him and you see a picture of this picture, you're like, fuck. You know what? And that's where everybody got started saying, But here's the other thing, Neil. How do you explain the last shooting where he parked the car in the hydrant and he went from all these blocks? Like, that timeline is really crazy in that shooting.
I don't know.
Do you have done that?
Sorry, say that again.
Do you think, Neo, that he could have done? He had enough time to get over that, to do the shooting.
Yeah, I think the time was messed up. That's my opinion. Yeah, I think Cecilia and the time of the shooting, I think maybe the minutes were messed up. But yeah, I'm still stuck on he was by himself,
Well, here's another problem, and which makes this case so difficult. What makes you think that when the cop wrote the parking ticket for parking in front of the hydrant, what makes you think he wrote the right time down?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. I mean, I've talked to cops, and it's like, 1:30. They're not going to scratch it out because they put 1:13, but they meant 1:18. So all the, unless it's a timestamp like they have now, with the meter maids, they have those electronic,
they give you a receipt now.
It's actually a timestamp. Back then, it's 2:00 in the morning. The guy's probably like, crap, let's go get a coffee, and we got to give this freaking ticket out. And I'm just saying it.
No, you're right.
Well, I guess where I'm coming at is even police reports are you can't take them for gospel truths. And I'm not bashing cops. Cops have told me this. You do the best you can, but is it 100% accurate? And maybe when you're taking a statement from somebody, it's like, let's just get this over with. And you don't write down word for word what the guy's telling you. And again, I'm not casting aspersions on the cops. They do what they do. We all do a job the way we do it, and sometimes it's perfect, and sometimes not so perfect. So,
and to your point, Carl, is the story was that the cops were giving out a lot of tickets on that block that night.
Right.
Okay, so it would be interesting to see, 4 or 5 of them, okay, and look at the times and say, well, how did they go from here to here in this, in writing, just to make a comparison.
Sure. Yeah. If we knew back then what we know now.
We do that now. But,
I'll go back to me. I would have paid attention to the exact time that the windows were blown out. I would have turned around to see if somebody was shooting from behind. Yeah. I mean, and then going forward to what you're saying is like, who even thought of it? But it's my understanding that the cops that wrote those tickets didn't put them in
the system.
They didn't put them in the system until Friday. No, the following Friday or the following Wednesday. It was like a 5-day lapse, and I think the supervisor said to the cops, "Did you write tickets that night?" And he says, "Yeah, I wrote tickets." Well, there's nothing in the system. He goes, crap. They're in my locker. I didn't put them in the system. So, and again, I'm not saying this to jam this cop up. You do what you do. It's like, I think any cop would admit to that. It's like, how many instances do you know of a friend of yours or it happened to you that the cops, you're doing something wrong and the cops say, "I don't want to do all the paperwork. I'm going home in like 10 minutes. Get out of here, kid." I know it's happened to me.
It happened to me.
So now we don't have a record of whatever I did.
Right. Guy simply could have forgot to put it in the system.
It went on a lot more back then. You can't do that now.
No.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's a different system now, the way they do stuff,
timestamps and all that, So, all right, guys, I want to wrap this up. And Neo, thank you so much for coming on. You will be a returning guest for sure very soon. Carl, thank you so much. You're fantastic as usual. Rob, what can I say about you, man?
I'm an outrage.
You're diabolical.
You're outrageous.
We had a lot of fun, guys. So thank you very much. And stay tuned soon for a new episode of the Son of Sam Chronicles. Have a good day.
Right. Be good.
Yeah. Later, guys. Thank you.
You got it.
From previous shootings and subsequent shootings because
really walkway right here to my left and went through a hole in the fence and committed this murder. Now, he did admit